On your side is your local election headquarters, and today is the City of Knoxville primary election. In fact, we have two-thirds, I should say, of the Tennessee This Week political pundits joining us here, Craig Griffith and George Corda. So let's talk about these elections, local elections, diving into them. Are we really seeing any issues, big issues at play, differences, and has that been articulated on the campaign trail between, let's say, different candidates for mayor, different candidates for city council?
If you saw there was a really driving issue, and there was something that causing people angst,
right.
Because long-time philosophy of mine is people vote for two reasons. They're angry about something a politician has done, or they're afraid of something a politician might do. And there's really not been a lot of that. Plus, it's very, very hard for the local candidates to get any kind of widespread acknowledgement. They go to a lot of forums, they go to a lot of meetings, they put out advertisings and mailers, but people are focused on the major leagues of politics, which is what's going on at the national level.
Right.
And you can get people to talk about that all day, but start talking about some local race becomes much, much more difficult.
How do you see that, Craig?
Well, you could argue that it means that people are satisfied with the city services that they get, with the way the police department's responding to their calls, and things like that. So these candidates have tried, but have not been very effective in breaking through the white noise that you see around these campaigns. There are issues that the city has, homelessness, for instance, the housing crisis, and some of these candidates have tried to articulate that, but that is not an issue that's gathering a lot of notice from the thousands of people out there that haven't voted.
And we've been doing that. I mean, you were on those two topics specifically, homelessness, getting more housing. We've been doing it. Other places have been reporting on it too. So it clearly is an issue, but you don't think that translates?
Well, the attention, again, comes down to, if you say the word politics in the United States today, there's one first name that comes up to mind is Trump. And then the second one is Biden. And if I go to do a public speaking engagement, which I do with some regularity, and I start talking about the things that are of importance to the people in the room, they don't talk about code enforcement and leaf pickup and things like that. They want to talk about, what do you think is going on with that business with Trump, or what do you think about Biden? It's sucking up all the oxygen, and it leaves very little for the locals.
Let's focus on the mayoral race. Okay.
One more, that shows you the level of interest. Back in the 70s, there would be 45, 50,000 people vote in a city. Nearly half of the registered voters.
Right.
Now you'd be lucky if you get 12 or 15% of the voters.
Right.
So that level of interest, for some reason, has gone down greatly.
Well, early and absentee was 8,500, about 12% of registered voters. The mayoral race, is that a done deal? Is India Kincannon a shoe-in for this?
Well, India certainly hopes so.
Let me say from what you're reading.
Yeah, in that race, you have to get 50 plus 1, and you don't go on to the general election. So all indicators point that India probably will receive that, because the city has turned to be very democratic in its voting patterns, and she's a Democrat, even though it's a nonpartisan race. You aren't running as a Republican or Democrat.
Also,
real quickly,
also people who can't put together the money, or who might want to run, they don't want to run against an incumbent.
Right.
And a lot of people who you might want to run, they don't want the hassle of running for local office.
So is that same thing play in our city council elections? You have the incumbents going to be one of the two moving on, or?
Well, we'll have to see. I'm interested in that seat C on city council that has Amelia Parker and Tim Hill and Matthew Best. Amelia was the first African-American to be elected to an at-large seat in the city's history, but Tim Hill's raised by far more money than anybody, probably raised as much as all the people in the city council races combined. So power of incumbency versus the power of money, and an unknown factor in Best.
Well, one thing I need to say, I've been doing some work for Tim Hill, and so I need to disclose that up front. But the thing about his fundraising is he's really not trying to raise money. People are just donating to him. People that he's kind of surprised want to donate to him, and this big pile of money he's put together has come really without any major fundraisers or big ticket items. People are just donating to him.
All right, we're getting told that we have to wrap all this up, so I want to thank you, and I can't believe we're talking and we haven't talked about the special session, because every time we're together, we talk about that. The
Well,
polls
watch
are open.
Sunday at
Yes,
12:30
Sunday
on
at
Tennessee
12:30.
This Week.
We
I'm sure we'll
definitely-
talk about it then.
We definitely will be hitting that. The polls are open until 8, and we'll bring you the results as they start coming in tonight on air and online at WATE.com. Lori.